Here on BBC One Northern Ireland now, the news at 1:15 with Catherine Biara-Hanga.
Good afternoon. Spanish police say they have the resources to continue the search for 19-year-old Jay Slater, who's now been missing in Tenerife for 6 days. They've declined an offer of help from Jay's home force in Lancashire. He hasn't been seen since last Sunday when he went to a music festival in the south of the island. He left by car with 2 men in the early hours of the next morning, telling friends he was staying at their apartment. Jay was last heard from on Monday morning when he rang a friend, saying he had low phone battery, missed a bus travelling south and was attempting to walk the 10-hour journey back. The call then cut out. His last known location was at the rural Tino National Park. Fiona Trott is there for us now. Fiona?
Well, this is where the police traced his last known mobile phone signal, the call he made to Lucy Law on Monday morning, saying he was about to attempt a 10-hour walk back to his accommodation. And as you say, the phone then cut out. This is why the search has been focusing on this area. It's an area of about 5 square kilometres, I'd say. Lucy's mum has been here watching and waiting. Jay's mum, Debbie, is also on the island at a time when she should have been back home with him in Lancashire, hearing all about his holiday, his first holiday abroad with friends. He was due to fly back yesterday, so you get a real sense of how many days have passed with still no clue of where he is. Let's just recap on what we know about the police search itself. They're telling us they're working with 16 firefighters, local police, mountain rescuers. They're using sniffer dogs, drones, a helicopter we've seen flying deep into the valley below. And as you mentioned there, Lancashire police offered their assistance yesterday, but the Guardia Civil have said that they're happy with those resources that they have. So the search continues today. We see more sniffer dogs here in the valley today. For onlookers like us, we get a sense that there isn't as much of a police presence as there has been in previous days. But look at the national park, it's huge. So today, the family, friends are just hoping that there will be another clue, fresh information that will help them find 19-year-old Jay Slater.
Fiona, thank you. Rishi Sunak has joined other politicians in criticising Nigel Farage for his comments about Vladimir Putin after the Reform leader said the West had provoked Russia's invasion of Ukraine by expanding the EU and NATO. With more, here's our political correspondent, Harry Farley.
Vladimir Putin this morning at a ceremony to mark the Nazi invasion of Russia in World War II. His invasion of Ukraine has largely united British politics.
It's more like a police interview.
But last night, the man who says he wants to be leader of the opposition said it was a consequence of EU and NATO expansion.
We've provoked this war. It's, of course it's his fault. He's used what we've done.
But we provoked the invasion of Ukraine.
Yes, and very interestingly, once again, 10 years ago when I predicted this, by the way, I'm the only person in British politics that predicted what would happen. And of course, everyone said I was a pariah for daring to suggest it.
Rishi Sunak has so far been reluctant to criticise Mr Farage, perhaps hoping to persuade those tempted by reform to back the Conservatives. No such hesitation this morning.
What he said was completely wrong and only plays into Putin's hands. This is a man who deployed nerve agents on the streets of Britain, who's doing deals with countries like North Korea, and this kind of appeasement is dangerous for Britain's security, the security of our allies that rely on us, and only emboldens Putin further.
There has been widespread condemnation.
Farage's comments about Russia and Ukraine are disgraceful. I've always been clear that Putin bears responsibility, sole responsibility, for the Russian aggression in Ukraine. I think anybody who wants to stand to be a representative in our parliament should be really clear that whether it's Russian aggression on the battlefield or online, that we stand against that aggression.
Let's get him over there.
The Liberal Democrat leader, Sir Ed Davey, campaigning on a chicken farm this morning, said only President Putin was responsible for the deaths of civilians in Ukraine. And Mr Farage's political opponents are hoping his chances of winning here in Clacton are dented by his views on the Kremlin. Harry Farley, BBC News.
And there's a full list of candidates standing in the Clacton constituency at BBC News Online. Ukraine says its energy facilities have again been attacked by Russia, the 8th time in the past 3 months. Ukraine is buying energy from the EU, but it's not enough, meaning there are planned blackouts most days in an effort to protect critical infrastructure. The UN General Secretary has warned that escalating tensions between Israel and the militant group Hezbollah could trigger a catastrophe for the region. Hezbollah, which like Hamas is backed by Iran, has been firing missiles into Israel since the Hamas attacks last October. Israel has responded with strikes on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. Our Middle East correspondent Lucy Williamson reports from the Israel-Lebanon border.
War empties neighbourhoods. Here on Israel's northern border, many say war is also the way to get residents back.
Were you hurt? Yes, here, I stand here.
David has refused to leave, even when rockets landed right in front of his house a few weeks ago. Shrapnel slicing through the walls, missing him by inches. It's made him even more determined to stay.
Every day, every night, bomb, problem. And I born here. What I say? Look, Hezbollah, kill Hezbollah. If you live here one night, you go crazy. Very, very strong, very problem. Bombs, rockets. Why?
Rockets hit Kiryat Shmona every week. This slipped past Israel's defences last Friday, hitting a street outside the mayor's office. The US is pushing hard for a diplomatic solution here. But the mayor says full-scale war is the only way out.
Sitting here like lambs to slaughter, just waiting for the day they attack us like we saw in the south, it's unacceptable. And everyone understands the choice is between war now or war later. I don't think there's any country in the world that would accept daily fire against its citizens.
Israel has been striking back across the border and talking up preparations for a full-scale offensive against Hezbollah. Hezbollah has vowed that nowhere in Israel would be spared. Tough talk is part of both sides' strategy of deterrence, but it can also spotlight the path to war.
Look like a missile. I don't know, it looks like they shot it.
Tom was out when a Hezbollah rocket hit his house in Kibbutz Malkiah, right on the border.
Look what one rocket can do to a house. Everything ruined. It's crazy, no?
He says Israel's leadership has failed.
They lost it. They need to quit, all of them. Yeah? The biggest failure of our army and our country was in the 7th of October, and they were the leaders.
There's growing pressure in Israel for a ceasefire in Gaza. That would likely calm tensions in the north as well. But Israel's Prime Minister is keeping both conflicts going, mortgaged by his promise to far-right government allies to destroy Hamas before ending the Gaza war. Playing for time is his specialty. But the longer this conflict goes on, the more it turns into playing with fire. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, the Israel-Lebanon border.
Cricket now, and England's hopes of reaching the T20 World Cup semi-finals hang in the balance after they lost a thriller against South Africa. It all came down to the final over in St Lucia. They needed 14 runs from it, but they fell 7 runs shy. Football and Scotland are preparing for their crunch match against Hungary tomorrow night in the Euros. They must win to have any chance of qualification. Meanwhile, England play their final group game against Slovenia on Tuesday. Nesta McGregor is in Germany for us. And Nesta, there's a lot of expectation for both home nations.
Absolutely. Here we are on the roof of a local business fitting, seeing as Scotland will be hoping to reach new heights. On Sunday, a win in Stuttgart, and they stand a chance of making the knockout stages of a major tournament for the first time. Their opponents will be Hungary, and even though Hungary have got no points so far in Group A, they will be absolutely no pushovers. Scotland trained earlier, everyone that is, except Kieran Tierney. Now the Arsenal left-back has left the camp. He suffered a hamstring injury in their last game and is unlikely to feature in the tournament again. Now listen, Scotland are one of the best supported teams here in Germany, and the Tartan Army will be desperate that come Sunday night they are not looking at the prices for return flights. So Steve Clarke says the only team talk he needs is to tell the Scotland team that they have a chance to make history, what no one has done before. Now as for England, they play Slovenia on Tuesday in Cologne even, but one thing is for sure, this won't just be about the result. People will be looking at the tactics, the team selection and the performance overall. England also trained today, although no Luke Shaw, and that's interesting because questions are being asked now about why he got a place in the 26-man squad with Gareth Southgate knowing he had an injury and possibly no chance of playing in the tournament. So we'll wait and see. But in life, and especially in football, hindsight makes everybody an expert, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Thank you, Nesta. Now, we all want to live our best lives, don't we? And Diesel, the donkey, is finally living his. Diesel escaped from his owners in California and hadn't been seen in, well, donkey's years, until he popped up 5 years later, happily living among a herd of wild elk. And that's a happy donkey right there. And that's all from me, but there's plenty more on the BBC News website. The next news on BBC One is at 5:30. Bye for now.
Hello there. It may be a little cooler today, but there's still some warm sunshine around. And if you're a hay fever sufferer, you won't be surprised to learn that grass pollen levels are very high for most places. There is a bit more cloud around today in Scotland, but particularly across eastern areas of England, with a few showers over the past few hours. They'll continue this afternoon before fading away this evening. And we've got a bit more cloud approaching the far northwest of the UK as well. Otherwise, dry with some sunny spells. Temperatures 18-19 degrees in the west, making 21 or 22 across the eastern side of the UK. But this cloud will push across Scotland and Northern Ireland, bring some damp weather as well. That'll head down into northern England, Wales and the southwest overnight. A little bit misty in these areas. There may well be some hill fog too. Either side of that cloud, we will have some clearer skies and temperatures, typically 10 or 11 degrees like last night. Heading into tomorrow, though, it's going to be a warmer day than today, and the first signs of things beginning to really warm up once again. Got that cloud, though, in northern England, Wales and the southwest to begin with, tending to lift a bit, pushing through the Midlands, leaving a cloudier afternoon in the southeast. Sunshine develops across other parts of England and Wales. A dry, sunny day with light winds for Scotland and Northern Ireland. And it will be warmer. Temperatures tomorrow 2-3 degrees higher than today. We're likely to make 25 in the southeast of England, even with some cloud. Sunny start for most, though, on Monday. A bit misty in the southwest. As the temperatures rise, the cloud will bubble up, spread out a little bit. Could be coastal areas seeing the best of the sunshine. But those temperatures are continuing to rise widely. The mid-20s could make 27 in the southeast of England. Now today temperatures are near normal, but it gets warmer tomorrow. But the beginning of next week, those temperatures really starting to rise, and it could be that the heat lasts a bit longer into next week before the weather breaks later on and we start to see some showers. Goodbye.